if you're doing intermittent fasting, you really should be doing keto dieting. I'm going to explain that in this video. So, if you know about intermittent fasting and you know about ketogenic dieting, you probably clicked on this video because I'm telling you that you need to be doing them both. The reason why you should be doing both is because I'm assuming many of you are coming from an intermittent fasting background, or you know more about fasting than ketosis. So if you know about ketosis, you can still gain lots from this video, but I'm going to be focusing on explaining to a lot of fasting people why ketosis is basically a better version of an intermittent fast. So if you know anything about intermittent fasting, you probably felt good in between meals. You probably felt heightened focus, pretty equally good performance, if not better performance, and you found it very easy to manage your meals and your appetite when you are in a fasted state. The reason why fasted states work the way they do is because they almost mimic, the fasted state mimics ketosis, and ketosis actually mimics the fasted state. So what that means is the longer you fast, the more likely your body is to produce ketones. The ketogenic diet, people will tell you that it's a high-fat diet and that you need to eat low carbs at the same time. It's actually a low-carb diet, and it's a low-carb diet regardless of if you're eating anything else. If you're not eating any food at all, you will be ketogenic after a couple days. And if you're eating food and then you're cutting out carbohydrates, you will be ketogenic. It has nothing to do with your fat content in your diet. That's just helpful for helping you produce more ketones. However, if you went 5 days without eating food, you probably would be in a deeper state of ketosis than somebody who is eating ketogenic foods all day long for weeks on end. The thing is, eventually on a ketogenic diet, you will get fat adapted, which is basically a much better, more powerful version of the ketogenic diet. That's actually what I advocate for, and it's my favorite way to diet ever. I can explain that in other videos, but this video is going to be about the link between fasting and keto. With regards to fasting and keto, like I said, a lot of the benefits you'll feel initially, so intermittent fasting, are going to be from the drop in blood sugar, the stabilization of your blood insulin, and the stabilization of your blood sugar. A lot of people do intermittent fasting for the appetite suppressing effects, and appetite suppression is really only a teaser of the appetite suppression you'll get on a keto diet. If you've ever done a keto diet, you'll know, or if you know anybody who has done one, they'll tell you about how much they don't crave food, how much they can go without food, and basically food isn't a concern for them every day because they're fine until they eat. Now, when it comes to using intermittent fasting and keto diets together, they will amplify one another. If you are on a keto diet and you start doing intermittent fasting, your blood sugar is already going to be pretty stable from the keto dieting. Now, if you throw in fasting into the mix, fasting is very ketogenic. The more you fast, the more stable your blood sugar and blood insulin, or your blood insulin, is going to be. When it comes to the appetite suppressing effects, those will initially be from the blood sugar and insulin, and from your body entering the fasted state. But the fasted state and the ketogenic state, in long term, are basically the same thing. They're basically both ketogenic diets. One way to call a fasted lifestyle, like a multi-day fast, is one way to call it a ketogenic diet. You're just not consuming any foods. They wouldn't call it a ketogenic diet because there's no food in the diet. But both of them are very ketogenic. So because most of the benefits come from the same source of those ketones, right, after you get over the blood sugar and the insulin, what's going to happen is your ability to do intermittent fasting on ketosis is going to be way easier, and your ability to do ketogenic dieting is going to be way easier when you're fasting because, again, the amplified blood sugar and blood insulin effects. Basically, in the long term, your sensitivities to both of those things, insulin and sugar, and your body's ability to produce ketones and energy from fat is going to increase. So in the short term, if you picked up intermittent fasting, what will happen is you'll find that there's a certain amount of time that you can go without eating food. So let's say for some people it's a 12-hour fast. For some people it's a 14, it's a 16, 18-hour fast. People will tend to find their limit. And by doing ketosis and ketogenic dieting, you will make it very easy to increase those numbers. And over time, your body will adapt. So if you start doing ketogenic dieting, your appetite suppression will be a little bit higher, and you'll probably find that you can increase your fast by a couple hours. So somebody who has been fasting at 16 or 18 hours will find it easier to do those diets even after they leave ketosis, because their body is better able to use fat as an energy source, and it's more insulin sensitive. You can increase your insulin sensitivity by a lot of things, even just exercise, but you'll get much better insulin sensitive raising effects by going keto. And that will make your fasting easier. So even in the long term, when you're not on a keto diet, you can increase your fasting muscle just because your body is much more adapted to doing longer fasts, which will be way easier on a keto diet. So once again, if you're somebody who finds like that you have a limit when it comes to your intermittent fasting practices, keto is absolutely the way to break that and to extend them. So even in the future, if you go back to carbohydrate-based dieting, you're either more fat adapted and more efficient at burning fat, which will then in turn allow you to fast longer and increase that fasting lifestyle after you've ran the course of the keto diet. So if that hasn't persuaded you to pick up keto dieting, if you're already a person who does intermittent fasting, then I hope you learned something of value here, because they're very similar and they mimic one another and they work very similarly in the body, especially as time goes on. So if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to ask me questions in the comments. Find my Instagram, DM me, I'll answer whatever you guys need, and I'm happy to help contribute to this keto, fasting, fitness sphere on YouTube. So thank you. My name is Anthony Romano. Peace.